Alrighty, today it's time for a professional match of Zerg versus Terran, and we find ourselves on New Repugnancy. Spawning here in the southwest corner and playing with the red Zerg drones. He's from South Korea. We're looking inside of the main base of Solar. One of the most stable, one of the most solid Zerg players that we have in SC2. He's been around for many years and definitely one of my personal favorites. I just simply really enjoy watching him play that very solid macro game. And I guess another reason why I really like him, humble brag incoming, okay? He follows me on Twitter. I guess that makes me a little bit biased, but I do appreciate that. That's pretty cool. Oh, actually, you know, when it comes to top-level Zerg players, I guess Zero follows me on Twitter as well, so I got that going for me, okay? That immediately makes me a much bigger fan of the player. But regardless, I mean, Lowko, enough of you subtly, or I guess not so subtly, plugging your own social media. His opponent in the opposite corner, playing with the blue Terran SCVs, with Samwise right there on the main command center. You know what? If you were to ask me, Lowko, who's your favorite Terran player right now, I think I would answer with none other than Gumiho. Gumiho is a legend. I really like watching this man play. The thing is, right? For years, in the meta of StarCraft 2, we saw the same strategies happening in Terran versus Zerg. Almost every single game. We saw Marines and Siege Tanks or Marines and Widow Mines. And then obviously, a lot of variety to go ahead and get there as well. But most of the mid and then the late game kinda looked the same. Gumiho, a couple years ago, when it really wasn't meta whatsoever, he was experimenting with a lot of variety. He was going for a lot of mech-based armies, and while technically speaking it wasn't the best at the time, he was experimenting with it a lot, and it allows him to nowadays be extremely good with it, as of course that Cyclone-based unit composition has certainly become one of the standards in Terran versus Zerg. I love it. I just really enjoy the fact that Gumiho is not afraid to mix it up and try something that is outside of that standard. Obviously, there's a lot of great Terran players, but Gumiho is nowadays considered to be amongst the very best. So we'll see where he's gonna take this game, but I wouldn't be surprised if he mixes it up just a little bit from the norm. I mean, for all we know right now, he could still be going for that Marine Siege Tank-based composition that is still very popular nowadays. The thing is, though, he plays that quite a bit as well. The thing is, he's just very good at mixing it up, and he's a difficult player to play against, I would imagine, just because he's capable of doing all of the different Terran things, right? A lot of players will favor one strategy or the other, and I guess while he favors mech, there's so much variety with it as well. You can't just go for a one-size-fits-all kind of strategy. You have to scout actively, you have to try and figure out what is going on. Solar right here, going for a very quick third hatchery before the metabolic boost upgrade. This was scouted right now by Gumiho, and I love this. He immediately follows it up with a third command center right over here inside of the main base before a starport as well. So this is obviously a very greedy build, but I guess we have a bit of a gentleman's agreement, okay? Solar accepting the fact that he would be in trouble if his opponent did not go for the natural command center, picking up that third hatchery before the first Overlord even remotely made its way across the map. In this case, didn't even scout the natural right now. He's just making the assumption that it is located on that low ground. Likewise, Solar, while he is accepting that fate if his opponent were to go for one base play, as soon as Gumiho scouted the quick third hatchery, he immediately planted down the third command center right here as well. So both players, they have a weird gentleman's agreement where apparently they've decided not to really be too worried about the opponent and just to sort of play their own game for the first 5 or so minutes of this match. Alright, third CC is done. Starport is done as well. You kind of have to go for a Banshee whenever you go for that third CC really quickly. The thing is, there's a variety of roach-based pushes, and that's what Gumiho is looking for right now. But there's a lot of really strong roach-based pushes that hit around 5 minutes. Obviously, in this case, since we're the omnipotent observer of this game, we know that that is not happening. But roach pushes are viable, they are pretty common, and if you don't have a Banshee at that point in the game, you're in a world of trouble. So Gumiho is going to be forced to go for the Banshee. Now already following it up as well with the Cloaking Field upgrade. I like it a lot, though. Nice little place here by both players. By the way, the Overlord, it did end up sacrificing its life right there for the Swarm. It was only about 4 minutes and 20 seconds old, but it scouted out exactly what is going on, and this will give Solar right here the time to create a couple of those Spore Crawlers. It's very important to have at least a couple of those done. Sometimes you get caught with your pens down against these Banshees because they are capable of dealing a lot of damage. Second Banshee right now coming up as well. Usually we see players saving it up and go for multiple before they really get any kind of damage in. But since it got scouted, the first one is already being sent across the map, and I love it. Additional factories right now coming up for our blue Terran player. Here's that first Banshee making its way towards the third base. He's gotta be careful. Oh my god, dude. Very uncharacteristic mistake right there by Gumiho. Guys, I just found out that apparently pro gamers are human. No way. He was lucky right there actually that the cloaking field upgrade finished up literally like what? Right when it was about to die, right before the queen was ready to shoot its final spine. I guess Solar didn't really anticipate the Banshee overextending like that either. That was very risky. Hyperflight rotors coming up. I love it. Couple Hellions though. Ooh, making their way towards that third base. A lot of damage there being done, and it looks like they will be able to get out of there. Even get a couple of those banelings down as well on their way out. Beautiful move there by Gumiho, and even though he did end up losing a couple, the damage right there certainly justifies the end result. All right. So apparently it needs a little bit of a patch up. Some people have asked me, Lowko, how does this work? This is one of the top 10 things that science can't explain, okay? How do you repair an air unit while being on the ground? It's magic, okay? Leave your theories down below in the comment section. I'm really interested in reading what your thoughts on this are. Still though, while Gumiho is getting himself the Hyperflight rotor upgrade, he's just simply being a bit of a nuisance here with units all over the map. More and more Hellions are joining the fray. They're now even split up into several different segments. That means that Gumiho might be able to get a little bit of damage in, but since there's no blue flame upgrade or whatever, he doesn't really want to overcommit as he would get surrounded with lings and banelings quite easily. At the same time, he tries to move in right over here as well with the Hellions at the third base, but I mean, the position right here of the units of Solar is really solid. They're mostly just dancing back and forth. They put on their dancing shoes and it looks like, for the most part, not a lot of damage will be done. But I like this, right? Additional Banshee production. So, here's the thing. And this is a very Gumiho-esque thing to do. Apparently, the SUV got brought to this party here as well. This is a very Gumiho-esque thing to do. Going for Hyperflight rotors, right? So, this upgrade is about 20 seconds or so from finishing. Okay, 15 seconds from finishing. If these Banshees are still moving when the upgrade finishes, look how much faster they are. This is a Banshee speed upgrade. Look at that, right? So 2 seconds until they're done. Look at it. Beep. All of a sudden, they are so much faster. This is one of the upgrades. Oh my god, no. Oh my god. This is one of the upgrades that we don't really see that often in StarCraft. And I wonder why. I think it's an extremely good upgrade if you can be active with these Banshees. I think, okay, I'm calling it right now. I think about a year from now, the Hyperflight rotors upgrade will be a lot more common. I think it's very good. I mean, look at them. They've even got like a little fire behind their wings. I don't know how that doesn't like blow up their petrol tank, but doesn't matter. The thing is, this is one of those upgrades that is very nice. You can usually get the value out of it. They've made it actually cheaper about a half year ago. So the upgrade used to be, I think, 200. I don't know exactly what the cost of it is right now, but it's a relatively affordable upgrade, and you can get a lot of damage done with it. It's just that it obviously takes up that valuable production time inside of that starport, and it slows down your siege tank transition and all of that, so it makes it a little difficult to justify it. But Gumiho, he has decided to not really go for that many siege tanks or that many cyclones, which is the standard right now to go for cyclones. Instead, he's got freaking Thors. Alright, so let's see where this game is gonna take us then. This is almost like an old school, new school kind of strategy. Old school because this looks the way that we used to see Terrans play mech back in the day, but then it's new school in the way that Gumiho is heavily expanding and playing really aggressively with the army composition as well. Back in the day when mech was being played, it would be that style where Terrans really wouldn't move around very often, and it just sort of did the same thing every single game where they sat back for 20 minutes and maxed out once. Gumiho already has been very active, although I do think we are likely going to see a bit of a lull in the game here in just a little bit. He's scanning the main right now, scouts the timing there of the Hive, so he knows that the Greater Spire is going to be done in probably about 2 minutes from now. And I guess maybe he's worried right now about a night display, which is the reason why he's keeping these Banshees at home. That's another thing I guess that Banshees are really good at. They're going to be really good with the Hyperflight rotors when it comes to cleaning up that Nidus worm play. In this case though, it's not going to happen. And most of that Zerg army is currently going to consist of Hellions, or not Hellions, what are they called? Hydralisks, Zerglings, and Banelings. Couple links right here on the other side of the map. In the meantime, though, the majority of that Protoss army, or that Terran army, rather, excuse me, made its way towards, well, I guess it's mostly just the Banshees, but the Banshees made their way towards the top side of the map, trying to harass what seems to be about the 5th or the 4th base right there for Zerg. A lot of Spore Crawlers, though, are going to be forced out here, and this is kind of annoying, right? It gets pretty expensive to make this many Spore Crawlers, so I guess if you have that many Banshees out, you're always going to force quite a bit, because if Zerg is out of position for just a second, and you don't have enough Spore Crawlers there ready to defend the base, you can 100% pick up a hatchery in just a matter of seconds. Alright, so pretty passive game here, all things considered, right? We saw Solar transitioning towards about a 10-minute Hive there. Hive has been done for a little bit. He's getting himself a Viper, going up to +2/+2 upgrades here, favoring what seems to be only missile and melee, so no carapace upgrades whatsoever. That means his units are going to deal a lot of damage, but they're not going to stay alive for very long. All of these units are actually very, very vulnerable, so I think it mostly just comes down to the engagement, and I guess with the Vipers out, or there's actually only one, but with that one Viper, you can definitely get a nice blinding cloud on a couple siege tanks. But that's a scary Terran army, though. Alright, look at this. He's leaving himself relatively vulnerable to Zerg counterattacks here. Planetary Fortress should deny most of them at the 4th, but there's obviously this one right over here. It's a little bit greedy, and here we go. Finally, the Banshees find a bit of an angle where the majority of that Zerg army is currently not located. They just simply ended up taking care of one of those Spore Crawlers with ease. Well, the Spore Crawlers do have quite a lot of range, so one of them gets picked off. At the same time, we saw the Queens trying to make their way towards that area to defend against that Banshee harass. But I like it. It's forcing these Zerg units into a bit of a different push. And or a bit of a different position, and Gumiho has started the slow push right now through the center of the map, clearing out some of the creep and probably sieging and unsieging a couple of those units at a time. Here's the thing, though. Slow pushing is great if your opponent is stuck. Oh well, yeah, that's gonna be the end of some of those Banshees. But slow pushing is great if your opponent is stuck on just Hydraling Bane. The thing is, Solar went for a very quick Hive, and with that, a very quick Greater Spire. These Brute Lords are gonna be phenomenal. Brute Lords can basically clear out everything that's right over here. I mean, what do we have for anti-air? I guess a couple of those Liberators. They wish there were Valkyries. Not gonna happen, though. They don't nearly deal that much anti-air damage. But the Brute Lords right here, I mean, they will be opposed with just one Thor. They're gonna be able to make short work of all of these units very, very rapidly. And obviously with the Hydras and now a couple of extra Corruptors and then that one Viper up in the air as well, they can deal a lot of damage. I mean, I see a juicy Parasitic Bomb coming up. Woo! There you go. That is gonna hurt these Liberators a lot, and that's gonna force them to unsiege. Now, great splitting right there, but this is what I mean, right? That slow push, a little bit too slow. It didn't happen fast enough, and that means that there was enough time right here for a Zerg player to get those Brute Lords out. This is going to be a difficult position. We see Vikings right now coming up, and mostly Thors. Normally it's Vikings that are being used to deal with those Brute Lords. I guess Thors are going to be good as well. They have 11 range, Brute Lords have 10 ranged. So that does allow them to, at the very least, get rid of this army here eventually. Anti-air, though, of Liberators is not that great. I guess they can go ahead and force a couple of these Hydras back as well, and that will allow these Thors and then these Vikings and a couple of the Liberators as well to get into a decent position to get rid of those Brutes. Bunch of SCVs ended up going down here, but you know what? All things considered, Gumiho has held on quite nicely. He pushed back that Zerg army really reliably, and even though it seemed like he was up with his back against the wall, or I guess the depot, yeah, he actually managed to hold there, and now he's adding on a lot more Thors and a lot more Vikings, and he's finishing up 3-3 upgrades. Alright. Solar, though, in the meantime, has been teching up, and he's been getting himself a lot of bases. Going up to a lot of solid upgrades. I love the fact that he got double Spire going, so he really is planning on focusing on a lot of air units. The thing is, right, if your opponent is trying to deal with Brute Lords armies by going for a lot of Thors, usually the answer is not like 8 Brute Lords, you just go like 20 Brute Lords. Try and deal with that if you're playing Thors. The Brutelings just sort of, you know, get that Thor army really stuck. But once again, here we go. Zerg is ready to commit. We see a lot of great Parasitic Bombs going down, but that's the Bruteling army that I'm talking about, right? The Brutelings are kind of forcing a lot of those Thors to stay back, and with the majority of the Thors now gone, well, there's more and more joining the fray. I think that eventually, right, if the Thors fall, though, these Brutes are going to be able to clean up every single thing. A lot of the siege tanks fighting this army on siege right now, and you know what? Hold that thought. I was not giving those Thors nearly as much credit as they deserved. They were really the ones that allowed so much value there. I mean, I guess a lot of the army supply right now for Zerg is caught up in units that don't really do that much. I mean, they're chasing the Liberators. That's actually doing quite a bit. Never mind. I thought they weren't doing that much. They are doing a lot. They are actually cleaning up every single last of these, aren't they? I mean, eventually they will run to the safety of their Thors, but that's a lot of damage done right there by that clump of Corruptors. But the thing is, I think what he needs to do, right? I think what Solar needs to do is just get more and more Broodlords. Don't go for like the conventional 6 or 10. Just get more. Just get a lot of them. In the meantime, by the way, Gumiho has been happily expanding all over the map, getting himself a base that is exclusively mining, apparently. Oh, one doggy checking out what's going on. But it's exclusively mining here with a lot of those mules. And, I mean, well, a couple SCVs are joining the mining parade here as well. But that's gonna skyrocket that income. Look at that. 4,000 plus minerals a minute right now for Terran. Alright, yeah, I think he's doing it. I think he's just going for a lot of brutes. I honestly think that's the best case, the best thing to do when you go up against a lot of Brute Lords. When you go up against a lot of Thors. Alright. Nice drone harass, though. A couple of those blue flame hellbats. Sorry, it's a family-friendly channel, right? A couple of hackbats. Hackbats, that's, yeah. Family-friendly term of hellbat. Not entirely sure, but... Yeah, no, so, here's the thing. Thors are pretty good. I have not seen a lot of games where they are truly gonna be the main anti-air unit. So we'll see what's gonna happen here. Keep in mind, these are fully upgraded Thors, right? They have the best upgrades they can get. Whereas for Zerg, these air units, they didn't come out until much later. They just haven't had enough time here to properly upgrade. So that's gonna be, I guess, +2/+2 right here on these brutes in just a little bit. I also think that Thors are good, but if they don't get in position, right, and the Brute Lords just simply throw the little Brutelings at a distance, and most of the time that the Thors are shooting is going to be spent trying to get rid of those Brutelings, it never really works out in the Terran's favor. I guess Gumiho plans on fighting this with unsieged tanks, and then having a couple of Blue Flame Hackbats in the front. I'm unsure, honestly. I'm not entirely sure. Man, that's a lot of brutes. That's a lot of brutes, and a couple of Vipers as well. Blinding Clouds are gonna make these Thors a lot easier to deal with as well, or maybe even just abducts. You know what? I think Gumiho, yeah, he's getting rid of siege tanks. This is so weird, man. You know that moment in Terran versus Zerg when they just give you a bunch of SCVs because they don't need them anymore? Or remember that moment in like Protoss versus Zerg? We see that every once in a while when the Immortals just simply are given away because they don't need them anymore. He's replacing it right now with additional Vikings. So most of this Terran army, right, it's just made up of units that are really good at when it comes to fighting air to air. And, or I guess anti-air, right? It's ground to air and then air to air. A lot of Thors, a lot of Vikings. Okay, +3 coming up here for Solar as well. I kind of got the feeling we are leading up to that one big moment. There's going to be that one big splash between both of these players. They're going to have to clash with the majority of their units, and we'll see who ends up losing more there. Look at the amount of brutes. Oh, I love this. So that's 11 Brute Lords, that's 19 Brute Lords. 8 more finishing up. I did the math. I love that the Queens right now aren't injecting anymore either. They're just putting down some tumors, but mostly saving up energy for transfuse. Look at that Zerg army. That's a scary Zerg army. We see 9 Thors ready to fight against 19 Brute Lords. We see those Hellbats right in the front though, roasting a lot of those little Brutelings as well. Oh my god, great blinding clouds there on top of most of those siege tanks. That allows these brutes to move forward quite reliably, and Solar gets a devastating advantage there. Beautiful move by our red Zerg player, just simply reading the scenario wonderfully. He's like, yeah, you want to go ahead and make a lot of those Thors? I'll just make more Brute Lords, see how you deal with it. Well, apparently the way you deal with it, according to Gumiho, is by making a lot more Thors. He's now producing 6 Thors at once. That's a lot of Thors, guys. That is a lot of Thors. Give this about 2 Oh my god, I love the fact he added on Medivacs. He's using Medivacs like you use... Oh my god. He's using Medivacs like you use War Prisms to pick up like the weakened ones, I guess. Oh my god. Still a couple of those Hellions though. Or Hellbats, I guess, right there in the front. They're managing to roast a lot of those Brutelings. And since, oh my god, the Medivacs, they're healing Hellbats, right? They can heal Hellbats. They're managing to keep them alive, and that means that Gumiho gets a lot of shots off with those Thors on distance. Still though, that's a lot of Queens and that's a lot of Brute Lords. They're dealing a lot of damage. Love the blinding cloud right there in the back as well. A lot of Vikings now joining the fray too. But slowly but surely, a lot of those Brute Lords are falling, but still, it's a lot of Zerg units that do remain. Reinforcements, though, are ready to move across the map, but Solar is pretty much as good as broke because of all of that harassment earlier. He doesn't have a lot of reinforcements. Gumiho is building right where he's fighting right where these units built, right? They basically spawn right here in the middle of the engagement, and with that many Thors, apparently they are here. Oh my god. Gumiho manages to hold an army at his front door while reinforcing with Thors and Vikings. That is not something I've seen a whole lot of. We see a lot of Terran players trying to get cheeky with a lot of Vikings, and then like add on maybe a couple of those Ravens as well to land anti-armor missiles. Thors are generally speaking not utilized in this kind of scenario. But I guess since Gumiho managed to pick up a lot of those drones continuously throughout the games, right? Initially, or throughout the game rather. Initially with those Banshees, and then later on with Liberators and Hellbats and Hellions and all that, right? He ended up killing so many drones that the Zerg economy just wasn't that great anymore. Solar decided to go for one final killer push, and while it worked with the initial Terran force, the reinforcements of Gumiho, because of all of that mining, they spawned pretty much right in the engagement. They managed to spawn out of the factory and straight into the fight. They ended up dealing with that really scary Brute Lord swarm, and I guess eventually Gumiho right there ends up obtaining the victory in a very well fought game. I hope you enjoyed watching this. If you did, make sure you hit the like button down below, and if you want to see more, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you get a notification as soon as I upload more. A special shout out to the Patreon supporters. You guys are awesome. Thank you very much. But for now, I want to thank you for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile alright, and I will see you once more in the next one.